In the long run, firms can enter, startups can enter, can grow, and old firms can go bankrupt and go out of business and cease to exist. And so one of the things we want to think about now is the role of firm entry and exit and in the labor market. And so two of the things that we're going to want to think about uh, is, first of all, the relationship between the markup, how much firms charge above their costs, and so how profitable they are, and its relationship to the equilibrium number of firms. And so what we're going to see is that when the profit is high, more firms enter because they want to enjoy that profit. When the profit's low, they want to exit because they can't make as much profit. And so we're going to walk through that process first, and then we're going to think about the role of profit and technological change. So here on this graph, we have the number of firms on the horizontal axis and the equilibrium markup on the vertical axis. Remember, the equilibrium markup comes from how many firms there are, how competitive it is, how much differentiation there is, things like that. And so here at equilibrium, we say, all right, well, we've got 210 firms and we've got some mu star. This little letter is the Greek letter mu for markup. Um, and and we're at equilibrium with 210. Now, if there's a low markup, right, if there's too much competition, then firms are going to start exiting the market because they can't earn as much profit. And so the markup is too low and firms will start leaving. On the other hand, if there is a high markup, and so firms in this industry are making a higher profit, then firms will start entering and will be pushed back to point A. So whether or not we have a high markup and a low number of firms, or a low markup and a high number of firms, we move back towards equilibrium. And so it's a self-correcting process where we see that the number of firms is very much related to what the markup is in the industry. Now, one of the things that's important to realize is that in a lot of countries, especially developing countries that have sort of yet to have a developed capitalistic society, yet to have the policies and institutions in place that allow capitalism to flourish, that there's oftentimes a big risk that if you are making a lot of profits, there's some risk that they will be expropriated by the government, or there's some risk that there'll be a political coup, or there's some risk that a foreign firm will come in and destroy those profits. And so um, if we do get an improvement in the conditions for doing business so that firms feel more confident in their profits and feel like it's a safer place to do business, then they'll be satisfied with a lower markup. And what will happen then is that our equilibrium markup will shift down, in this case from the dashed line to the solid line, and we'll end up with firms entering and we'll get a new equilibrium number of firms. And so when we can put these policies in place that help protect profits, help protect firms doing business, we can see that that can help countries grow as well. So if we think about the long run profit curve, it's going to depend on a number of things, right? And so it's going to depend on what the tax rates are. It's going to depend on the level of competition. It's going to depend, like we just spoke about, on the risk of appropriation, how good your human capital is, right? How educated your workforce is, what their experiences, what their skills are, the level of infrastructure, the opportunity cost of capital, meaning is it easy to invest in new capital? Is it really difficult to invest in new capital? And sort of what your costs are for, things like all the things you need to buy to create your products, steel and aluminum and food products and everything that goes into your goods or services. And so what we're going to look at now is the relationship between the real wage and the productivity and the markup. And so what we can do is we're having two graphs here. I'll put myself here. So on this graph, we have the markup on the horizontal axis going just from 0 to 1, meaning 1 is when the firm gets all of the productivity. And here we have the real wage. And this little letter here is lambda. Um, and that is how much output the worker produces. And so the worker could get, all of the output, lambda, or they could get none of the output, in which case the firm is getting it all. And so what we want to think about is, well, how is the real wage and employment related to how much the workers get versus how much the firms get? So on this graph over here on the right, we have employment on our horizontal axis and output per worker, the same vertical axis as over here. So if profits are low, then the firm gets only a small profit. Remember, the profit that the firm gets is the difference between output per worker, this dashed line here at the top, and the profit curve, right? It's not from the bottom to the top, it's from the top to the bottom. Whereas at different markups, right, as the markup increases, then the profits go up. So we have a low profit curve, we have a medium profit curve, and we have a high profit curve. And as profits are going up, the real wage is going down, right? This is all about splitting the pie between workers and firms. And so now what we're going to do in the next video is talk about how that is related to total employment.